Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for a much anticipated video. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, there's been people waiting at their computers for us to drop
I have had comments like saying,
really?
where is it? Yeah.
Good.
I have.
Good.
As
they should.
As they should. So, I mean, it must be a couple of months since we tested our last installment of this. The big poll breakdown for the Doctor Who magazine 60 years anniversary poll, whatever it's called. We've done all the Doctors up to and including 11 so far. Sort of final results to go through for the Capaldi and Whittaker eras, those episodes, all ranked by Doctor Who magazine readers for the first time this time. Because there were previous polls for the other Doctors in like 2014, 2009, the 90s, whenever it was. But yeah, these ones, because they're newer episodes, they've never been ranked before. We did do predictions for this, but it was so long ago that I can't remember what they were particularly.
No idea.
But yeah, it'll be interesting nevertheless to kind of go through this stuff.
So, hit me. What was the
do
results?
you remember top 3, top 5? I mean, actually, the
Jamie
top was-
Matheson must have been in the top 3. Was Flatline and
he's there twice.
Mummy.
In fact, he's there 3 times even, so in the top 5.
Was Oxygen in there as well?
Oxygen's number 5.
Oxygen, Mummy, Flatline.
Oxygen, Flatline, Mummy.
Right.
So 5, 4, 3.
So that's 5, 4, 3. Wow, great run.
Yeah. Do you remember that was number 1 actually? Because that was slightly surprising actually.
Was it Well Enough in Time?
It was one that the
Nice.
2-parter, yeah.
Good.
Which I think,
Okay.
it's pretty. I mean, well, yeah.
And then Heaven Sent.
Heaven Sent, yeah.
So they didn't split that. Now that's interesting, isn't it? They decided you can't pick and choose Doctor Who magazine when to make a. If you're going to make Flux one whole episode, then surely by that metric, Heaven Sent, Hellbent is like a Face the Raven. That's a 3-parter, right?
Oh god, I've forgotten about the Flux thing. We'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting that Heaven Sent didn't get 1. I think we probably would have predicted that would have been number 1.
I thought so. I haven't seen remember now actually reading this back. Like, yeah, okay.
Personally, I agree that Well Enough in Time is the top.
It's a better representation, I think, of the year, isn't it? Whereas Heaven Sent is the stronger
character
script, probably
piece,
stronger character piece, whatever. But yeah, I think in terms of this, best story or favourite story, fair enough. So what would top 10?
The pilot,
yeah.
wow.
So from 6 to 10, we had the pilot, Zygon 2-parter, Under the Lake Before the Flood, Husband River Song, and Extremis. So,
wow,
some interesting stuff. Nice to see the pilot pretty high, or that. I mean, it's a bit of a nothing story, but it is a nice.
That's
vibe.
why it shocks me. I like it.
Yeah,
but to me, it's a Smith and Jones. It's a kind of. It's just a good story.
Bit of a run around.
Yeah.
One packed.
Obviously, it's a fan favourite.
What do you think about these Series 9?
The Zygon one, I think, is people blindsided by just the speech and the Zygons.
I read the novelisation recently for that. I really wanted. I went in really wanting to love the story. I like it. I don't mind it, but I just think it's quite a convoluted thing. Like with all these different. All different characters going off to different parts of the world and stuff. It's just a bit confusing. It could have been more streamlined, I think, with all that. Like, I love the sense of the global scale of the problem and everything, but I just think in the execution it gets a little bit lost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of promise there for like this big global thriller, and I'm on the surface, and that's probably what people are voting for, like the kind of idea of that more than the execution. I mean, what do you think of that?
I've never been drawn to it.
No.
I've not given it another chance since I did a big Capaldi rewatch a while ago.
Yeah,
so I decided not to get the book, but is it not worth it
then? So I've read all the newer ones, and the order I read them in, so I read that one, I read Kablam next, I then read Planet Viewed, and I finished Water of Mars.
What's the best?
I would say that they're all nice to read, but I'd say they did kind of get stronger as I went along, actually.
So is it Water of Mars is the best?
I'd probably say
so did you say Planet Viewed was the last one you read?
Waters of Mars was the last one. I mean, they were both very strong, actually, those two, I thought, in terms of delving into stuff.
Okay.
There was some great stuff in Planet Viewed, actually, like where, in terms of extra material and stuff, where there's like the business people who've come to the complex to look around and have the presentation and stuff, they go off to the spa to enjoy like a complimentary spa package, and they're like in the pool and stuff, and then like, an ood comes in and electrocutes the people in the pool with his orb.
Fantastic.
Stuff like that.
Like it.
Great, yeah,
Nice.
Really kind of delving into all that horror and stuff. And similarly with the Waters of Mars, nice bit about like Adelaide's childhood, like delving into that a little bit more. Not loads. I think there's like an extra scene to do with like an ice warrior relic or something that they find.
Okay.
Not loads and loads of extra material, but just in terms of the way it's all described, like, it's obviously so strong to begin with.
Yeah.
But it just
when you're working
really,
with good material,
I think it works really well in prose. That kind of build up to the 10th Doctor's kind of downfall and then the aftermath. Yeah,
I still got to get around to reading the 2 that you gave me, the freebies.
Yes.
Yeah, so once I've done those, I'll get Wars of Mars.
So
Under the Lake Before the Flood. Now so I watched that yesterday, the day before yesterday, or something like that. Doing some room tidying and decided to put on a random Capaldi.
Yes.
I think it's because we were chatting about, has an episode ever aired on my birthday, Before the Flood? It's the only episode that's ever been on my birthday.
Years ago.
So we decided to watch that. I mean, it's fine. I don't know why it's in the top 10, because it's a bit of a nothing. It's got the gimmick of kind of going back in time, but other than that,
for this one, for me, a little bit into my. I was surprised to see it that high, actually. Kind of pleasantly surprised, maybe. I mean, it's a while since I watched it. I think a lot of people do just love that kind of Base Under Siege.
Yes, yeah.
Quite a classic feeling story, isn't it? I sort of agree a little bit about the execution in the second half, although I do like the kind of the change of locations. It kind of, I don't know. But yeah, the first half is the strong one, I guess. I'd had to revisit that one to see, really. But I'm happy to see it there than the Zygon one, I think. I think that would have been higher than the Zygon one.
I'd agree. Yeah,
I
I prefer it to that. But I'd call it the midpoint. I think it would have been a solid kind of...
Right, yeah.
You know,
I mean, Husband's River Song.
I like it.
Unanimous.
Yeah.
On that one.
I think it's kind of... the more purist of the fans would not be so much favourable.
Another kind of pleasantly surprised because obviously it is kind of got that fan base now that certainly when it came out, not so much at all really, and it's just great to see how that's worked. Extremists,
you're a fan. I don't remember being a fan. I think I've found it quite a pointless exercise in terms of...
Do you prefer other bits of the trilogy or just not any of it?
I remember liking Lie of the Land more than a lot of people.
Interesting, okay.
But I have to go back to it. I think I'd like Extremis more in retrospect. Just to be like, look, you know that the rest of the trilogy was a bit crap, so just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those nice Moffat chamber pieces, I think, which people feel differently about. Stuff like Listen as well. I suppose we'll get into that very soon, actually. But like, fair enough if you don't get on with them as well. I mean, certainly like with the Missy stuff in that, I like it, but it does feel a little bit shoehorned. But it comes to that nice climax, I think, where like she's in the vault at the end, and there's the reveal, and it's like, Missy, I need your help. I quite like that.
I think if I watched it again, I'd probably appreciate it.
Afterwards,
I'm not surprised to see it as high as it is. It's just there are other things like we see Listen not in the top 10, and I'm shocked at that.
That's a bit baffling, isn't it?
Yeah, because that was so.
That's
it's kind of one
place.
of it. Yeah,
that's Face the Raven 11th. You would have expected to see both those in. I think Listen for me would definitely be top 10. Do you love it one as much as?
I do like Listen. I do like Listen. Yeah. I think again that was kind of very much of that Series 8 era.
Yes, very much.
And it kind of it hit upon what they were going for. I think. Do you know what I mean with the Capaldi Darker Doctor and that sort of stuff.
In tone wise, and again, it's the one that rubs people up the wrong way potentially because of the way it ends and what the actual kind of reveals are, or aren't. But like I like that. Face the Raven. How do you feel about that one these days?
I think.
Were you quite a big fan of that one?
At the time, yes. But again, in retrospect, when you know that it's all been kind of devalued by what happens after the fact. Probably looking back on it, though, I don't think a tremendous amount happens in it, other than... I think everyone kind of pictures the final 11 minutes when Clara dies.
Which is very strong, but...
Yeah, but before that, what is it?
And I think even at the time, for me, I can sense that a little bit, and probably more so these days. But again, it's not one that I've watched that recently, but it is another one that's kind of run around. It's all kind of, you're waiting for the thing to happen, and I think we knew going into it that there was going to be something to do with Clara, so maybe lose something. Dark Water, Death in Heaven, 13th place. How do we feel about
that? To be honest, I would agree with that. I think. I think it's certainly one of the better ones.
Yeah, I think we were saying this last time. Our predictions. I know it's controversial for a lot of reasons with people, and fair enough if you find it offensive, or like with the Brigadier stuff as well. I can appreciate.
It's hard. It's hard for us to say.
Yeah, and like with some of the execution there in the second half, not quite living up to maybe what was set up in the first half. But I think overall, I vibe with it. The aesthetic, like the Cybermen in the graveyard and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I like Chris Addison and that sort of stuff as well. I think Michelle Gomez is like just thrilling.
I think it's a pretty flawless first half, certainly, and then I don't dislike the second half, but
that's probably the nicest way of talking about it, really, isn't it?
I do actually. Having said that, I do love the kind of final confrontation, like between the three, like Missy and Clark. And Clark's got the thing, isn't she? Pointing at Missy and the Doc's there, and it's
at the time I remember it being quite a big thing. Yeah, totally. I mean, and we forget. Actually, I think so many other things have happened since that you forget that big reveal at the end of part 1 when Missy turns out to be a master.
Colossal, isn't it?
Like at the time that blew up, but we've had like
big moment,
Timeless
risk,
Children and Sasha Dewan and all that sort of other stuff that's happened since that it's kind of you forget about that. But that
you're right. Going back to watch that in isolation, or even in the episode itself, you really kind of get into that mindset. And, oh my god, like this was huge.
And isn't that weird? Really how Face the Raven, as an example that you just talked about, is you remember it for the end, whereas Dark Water and Death in Heaven, it's the story that's kind of overshadowed just the reveal. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You watch something like Name of the Doctor knowing that it's going to end with John Hurt popping up.
Yes.
Whereas
you don't think of it as
that's the one where Missy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's which I think is really good sign of the story, and that the story was strong enough to overshadow that. So now I'm baffled by these two. What are those doing so high up?
So we got 14th, 15th place, Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, and Twice Upon a Time. So the series 9 opener.
I want to watch that again, but instinct is.
It's another one I have to say. Instinctively for me, I do vibe with it. But even then, I will watch like the Magician's Apprentice back and think like this is just such a kind of
waste
of time,
to
really.
Scar,
yeah. Like I don't dislike it, but it's just in terms of the other stories and more substance. And certainly by the second half, you get like great Davros stuff. I think that does hold up.
Maybe it needs another watch.
For you,
maybe it's fan consensus that has just kind of made me assume that it's bad.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to give it another go.
Other things like the Sarah, feel like with the Davros betrayal, or just nothing in particular, just kind of general.
I think it's little bits that was just very the extreme Moffatisms of it, like the whole cup of tea and that sort of stuff. I just accept it.
Sure.
But then I think back to stuff which again people hate, but I look back on and I think that's fantastic. When you've got the Doctor on the tank playing Pretty Woman to Jenna Coleman, it's like I wanna be you right now. It's fantastic. And actually, lest we forget, this is my birthday present from yesterday.
Yes, we mentioned this day, don't we?
In the Magician's Apprentice outfit with the guitar and everything like that. So thank you, Izzy.
What a little dude.
Amazing. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, the Magician's Apprentice gave us this. So yeah, he's a very, very happy chappy.
We've got 35 stories overall, so we're kind of approaching the midpoint now. Oh yeah, Twice Upon a Time, obviously. I mean, that should not be so high. No, I agree with that.
I'm baffled. How has that happened? How has that happened?
People think. People thinking about the end with the solstice, whatever it is.
People assume it's a regeneration story, therefore I guess it's got to be
peace thing at the end. The soldiers. I
mean, even to us, who we saw it ahead of the transmission.
I wouldn't rank it higher than.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't dislike it as much. Obviously, you have stronger feelings towards it, but it's more of a nothing story. It's not something I would put above other stuff that's down.
Especially, I'm just scanning down the list, and I'm like, I would not put things like Twice Upon a Time, Face the Raven, and even as much as I like the pilot, I would not put that stuff above stuff like Into the Dalek, Empress of Mars. I mean, maybe that's it. But still, there are Deep Breath. I really actually think should be
that's
higher.
kind of the midpoint is sort of Deep Breath, Hellbent, Thin Ice in 16th place as well. Deep Breath maybe higher.
No, I do like Deep Breath. I think it's one of my favourite.
It's just so long, isn't it? But it is.
It is a long one.
I do, yeah. I like the vibe of it.
Yeah. Hellbent is weird to be on level pegging with it.
Yeah.
Last Christmas. Now that shocks me. I thought Last Christmas was a fan favourite. Or is that just me?
I don't know really. I mean, I think it's another one of those ones where it's like based on the Siege thing. It's like the classic kind of there was quite a lot of feeling it was doing all that sort of stuff well and back to like a 60s style.
Yeah,
but
I just thought that was like when people say like what was your favourite Capaldi Christmas one, it is usually Last Christmas. Not for me personally, but like I think I just thought it was higher.
Well, I think Husbands does have probably more fans these days. I thought, but I don't know.
Well, there you go. There you go. Time heists.
I mean, what like the final kind of 50? I mean, I suppose from this point on, there's stuff that you expect to see.
But I wouldn't have expected Empress of Mars and Into the Dalek to be that low.
I think Empress of Mars. It's not one that I've watched in a while.
Really? Okay. I think I like the aesthetic of it.
I think it's certainly one that gets forgotten about or overlooked, rightly or wrongly. I don't know.
It's at that point in the season though, which is like we're gearing up to the finale.
We're waiting for the finale. Yeah, sadly, and I think. I mean, obviously, one that follows at East of Light. I think we both agree, wouldn't we, that should be. I mean,
where is that position?
Well, that's actually 30. There's stuff below that. Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely for me, that's bottom end. No, last places really for me. I mean, what's here that should be higher or lower?
Return of Doctor Mysterio. Maybe that's about right. To be honest, it's not the bottom, but it's equally not the top. Maybe that's kind of right.
I mean, I agree with you about Into the Dalek.
Into the Dalek, I remember being really good.
Solid.
Yeah, Phil Ford, all that sort of good stuff.
I mean, what do we... I mean, these Series 10 ones, things like Smile, Knock Knock...
Smile, I think's very good. Knock Knock...
Knock Knock is a funny one. I think it gets a lot right up to a certain point, but then the twist just doesn't really... Land.
Yeah.
I think they need to kind of, workshop that a bit more.
I definitely wouldn't... I would put it higher than Pyramid at the End of the World, though. I think that one's a bit of a nothing story as well. So, like, I would put...
middle part, isn't it?
There's more going for Knock Knock than that.
Maybe.
So I don't know why that's below it. And Empress of Mars, as I keep saying.
I mean, bottom 10 then, so, I mean, obviously, there's stuff you expect to there, like Girl Who Died, Lie the Land.
But that should be... I think, in my opinion, I'd put Girl Who Died a lot lower as well.
Oh, would you? Yeah.
I think that it's definitely... there's stuff below that I'd put
There's
higher.
always been people that have said it's a stinker, ever since it went out. I think, actually, weirdly, it's maybe one that is going to kind of go up a bit. But I already has done a little bit. I don't know, I think... it's a different vibe. I think even Jamie himself would say, like, oh yeah, it's my weakest. I think he has said, like, it's my weakest script.
There was an interview with him
that
said that,
kind of got a little bit of a soft spot for it, maybe. I'd have to go and revisit it. But maybe, compared to the stuff in that season, I mean, it's not, punching, really. Robot of Sherwood. What do you think about that? I mean, Caretaker, these kind of Series 8 ones.
Yeah.
Kill the Moon in the penultimate place.
Yeah.
And then obviously in the Forest of the Night. There's quite a few Series 8 ones actually down.
I wasn't surprised to see in the Forest of the Night at the bottom, to be honest.
Do we think Kill the Moon deserves to be quite that low?
Yeah. Because it's actually one that I watch and I feel I don't.
It just gets stuff.
It don't make me feel nice. If you know what I mean. Like when I watch it, I'm just like I'm not getting a good vibe from this. The only bit of it that I would say is fantastic, and it's only really because of Jenna Collins' performance, is that final scene when she says, "What you did to me was not good. I'm not happy about that."
It's a bit of a weird one, yeah.
And I love that scene because of her. But other than that, there's nothing else in Kill the Moon that.
The moon location stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they do a good job with making it look like the way it does.
Yeah,
and I think my other favourite part is Capaldi's delivery of "The moon's an egg." He's like so excited about this prospect.
The
moon's an egg.
Yeah. I think it might be a little bit higher for me. I agree. Yeah, sort of lower half, definitely. Yeah, I'd say so.
It's hard to place a lot of those. But I think the bottom 5 at least, I've not seen Sleep No More in a while though, and I don't know if that's as bad as people think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so myself. But again, like you say, it's difficult to place some of those where it's like, okay, might not be so bad, but is it better than other stuff? I don't know. Robot Show might be a little bit higher for me. But then again, it's kind of more. It's another one of those kind of inoffensive ones.
And isn't that quite personal, knowing that you were?
Yeah, the bias comes into it, I suppose, and
you're behind the hill when they're men are in
exactly. Caretaker. With that one, you can understand it being low because of
association.
Yeah.
I
think it's sort of a shame because what it does there with like the kind of love triangle, or kind of the trio of characters there, like Dr. Danny, Clara, it's quite a nice thing. And you have that moment in the middle where they're like on the theatre and they're having it all out, and I like what it does for those characters and the relationships, but I don't know. I think there's some stuff in there that's kind of unfairly overlooked, but then there's also some stuff that's not so great or hasn't aged as well. So, and obviously the author.
Yes.
So. But what has Tom Spills?
Well, you'd honestly think that Twice Upon a Time would got very high, given how much of the article is dedicated.
One
to
story which you've given us your opinion on for the first time is Peter Capaldi's finale, Twice Upon a Time. This special fell awkwardly between our regular season surveys. Blah, blah, blah. The story acquits itself very well. It's the 12th Doctor's second most popular Christmas special and his 15th most popular story out of 35.
I don't know how anyone could ever frame something being 15th in a poll as done very well. But
he did it with Simon the Doctor.
Yeah.
He did it again here.
Yeah. There's
6 years on, the macabre Series 10 finale has lost none of its chilling power. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Whittaker.
There we go.
24 stories here. Flux is all one thing, as previously discussed, which is pretty stupid because they could have even just done it both ways, like have it, because now we don't have any data aside from the season survey, I don't think, for the individual installments, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway,
so daft.
Top 3, top 5. Paradox number 1. Haunting of the Diodati number 2, Fugitive of Jadoon number 3. Maybe let's just take that apart a little bit. I mean,
whoa there.
Whoa. So, how do we feel about Paradox? How do you feel about that?
That's a recency bias, and that's kind of all it is, I'd say. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I love. How do I frame this? At the time, I felt it made me feel very happy, and gut reaction was. This is just, I know there's flaws with it, but it makes me feel very happy. Taking a step back, though, in terms of the quality of the story, the structure and all that sort of stuff, it ain't the top by any stretch, in my opinion. Yeah. Would you agree, or would you say that it's rightly?
I agree that there's recency bias, definitely. I'm sort of happy to see it there.
Okay.
In the sense of, like, in the same way like For Day the Doctor back in 2013, it's like a kind of record, like it's time capsule of this moment in time, and maybe like in 10 years, whatever, it'll be different.
No, it won't, Richard, because Day the Doctor's still number 1.
Well, yeah, it's true, isn't it? But yeah, I think, and then besides from that as well, there's the whole thing of how it kind of pleased both camps in terms of newer and older fans, which again, it's not surprising from that point of view. So I don't know. I like the story more than you. There's stuff in the era that I probably like more, but then as a kind of smorgasbord, and I don't know, as a kind of representation of a story that really just pleased everybody, kind of as much as anything in this era did. It kind of makes a certain sort of sense, I think.
But why did he clone a shard, Richard? Anyway,
one day in the Call Me Master.
I think when that's released in 2026 or whatever it is.
What would your number 1 have been?
This, I don't think this will shock you. Eve of the Daleks.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, where's that? So we've got it. That's in 7th place.
Yeah, it's the highest ranked Dalek story.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And after hearing as well, I don't know if you've listened to Corner to Corner,
all
the Chibnall interview.
Stuff,
I mad respect for Chibs to have pulled that together.
Yeah.
and for it to be my personal favourite of his era. Haunting of Villa Diodati, though, as we've talked about in our Jodie sort of unpacking, I think is very strong.
Yeah.
You're not so much.
Not so much.
Camp.
I didn't dislike it.
Fugitive of the Jadoon is one that I remember talking about and saying that it's just aged very poorly. It's one of those ones that is purely... I think when you think of Fugitive now, you think of the "Hello, I'm the Doctor" reveal.
See, again, like it more than you, but I do sort of know what you mean. Like watching it back, a bit like Face the Raven. It's one of those stories where you watch it back, you're waiting for that thing to happen. I vibe with like a lot of the kind of the Jadoon stomping around Gloucester and that kind of stuff, and All Ears Alan and those the nice characters we get there, and seeing that kind of urban setting and stuff. But yeah, you get to that point, I suppose, isn't it? There's like the reveal and stuff, and I can see, it's a bit of a nothing story from that point of view. Is it surprising it's there? Not really. I mean, maybe.
No, I wasn't surprised.
It would, always have been top 10, probably always top 5. Yeah, maybe 3 is a little bit of a surprise. I will say. Yeah. I mean, making the top 5, the 2, 2 out of 3 of the series 11. Yeah, the kind of most lauded ones. The historicals, Rosa and Dunes of Punjab. Fair enough, I'd say.
Although personally, I'd say Witchfinders is better than both of those.
Yeah,
but that's personal opinion, and I understand why something like Rosa, it made such a big impact at the time.
I mean, that top 5 is kind of, it's the crowd pleasers, I suppose, and it kind of makes sense in terms of overall consensus. But certainly, I mean, personally,
I think you'd even push Spyfall into that in terms of a crowd pleaser as well, wouldn't you?
I was kind of, that's in 6th place. I was kind of surprised to see that so high, I will say, actually.
Personally, I've never been a fan of Spyfall, and
I think for me, I definitely like the vibe and the feeling of part 1 at the time, and actually part 2 as well. To be fair, I got on well with it, and obviously the Master reveal and stuff. But I don't know. I think going back to them, part 1 was the stronger one. Nice adventure to the feel, roller coaster feel kind of thing, leading up to the cliffhanger. Part 2, I mean, obviously there's some stuff in there that's not aged, or even at the time wasn't great. And it's it's a little bit of a mess logistically. Don't
a bit of a waste of
dislike it like other people do, but I was kind of surprised to see it there. Certainly don't like that story as a whole as much as other people, as much as readers. Like either the dialects and Sound of the Place we've said, that would be higher for me than Spyfall.
You're a fan of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very strong piece of work. Woman Who Fell to Earth, that's one that you're not as big a fan of?
No, and I'm equally surprised at that being so high. I don't know whether that's just because generally people might have thought, well, I remember watching that one, therefore I think at the time
it went well, because obviously it's kind of back before a lot of the kind of criticisms of the era had kind of started to emerge, because it was the first one. So it's kind of back in a more innocent time. I think it holds up. I watched it the other day. I had a great time with it. Okay. And it's a story that's dear to me as well.
Apart from the bit when Graham, which has been dragged up recently about the dyspraxia comment, it's very
just bizarre.
Yeah.
It kind of screams that to me that like they were planning to do something there. Yeah. They thought, oh, maybe not. They left that line in the script. They realised too late. Yeah. It's just weird. Like, there's no defending that.
No, not at all. Tell you what, my favourite thing about it is how recently someone reshared a clip of Bradley Walsh on the train set. It's the train they filmed it on, and he's eating mini cheddars, nicking them from the props trolley that they've got.
Yeah, instantly I think I was near where they filmed that recently. I'm not fully sure, but in the Brecon Beacons, there's a thing I think called the Brecon Light Railway or something, like a little touristy train track that only goes between 2 stops or something. Right. But I think they filmed that in situ on an actual train. I don't know for sure, or it might have been a studio thing. But there was that, and that's quite near. A bit of a tangential thing, but like it's near where they filmed some of It Takes You Away as well. And I was
that same block, so
like in the countryside, like the bit where the TARDIS lands at the start, and they look out on the view, and obviously it's like they photoshopped, green screened in, and CGI'd in whatever the lake and stuff, like Norway and stuff. I was trying to find that exact viewpoint, and I don't think at the time I thought I'd got it, but looking back, I don't think I think it was very, very close.
Right. Is
So
that
maybe-
that kind of area?
It was definitely the vicinity, yeah, and those two things are quite close together. Little tangential thing.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah. In fact, location-wise as well, I should say, I was at the went to the charity shop from When We Fell to Earth, or on the subject of that story.
Really? What is it? An
Well,
Oxfam?
it's closed. I should have taken a photo when I was there. I got some photos, but there's a sign on the door. I think it was like dangerous or something. So maybe it's like asbestos or something in the building. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was really funny actually because you could actually get quite a good view through the window. Obviously, it was all empty and stuff, but I was able to pinpoint the corner where she had her costume and stuff, where that took place, and I was able to like see on the opposite side of the road, like the Domino's and the discount store that you can see in the background through the window.
Amazing.
So definitely the right
Brilliant.
place. Yeah, very, very cool. Anyway, on to the episodes themselves, back to them. Resolution. How do you feel about that being top 10, number 9?
Yeah.
I
The
think
thing
fair
about
enough,
me
but-
personally is that the Jodie era wasn't really for me. There's a handful of episodes that I'm like, yeah, I had a good time with those, but certain ones like Resolution, I struggle to find anything in me that's got a big push for it.
Yes. Yeah.
All I really remember about that is the cafe scenes with Ryan and his dad being a bit long. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Again, like Woman Who Fell to Earth, kind of one that I do think holds up. If it's a little bit over long in place, like you can see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a good time with it.
Jodie's got a nice scarf in it as well.
She has, yes.
Very good
Then
scarf.
rounding off the top 10, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
And not one that I've been
A bit of a
fan
surprise.
Yeah.
I think we've had in the past in our big breakdown video, like, I think, yeah, personally for me, probably a bit of a kind of, I always thought of it as a kind of underrated one, but I wouldn't put it that high, I don't think. No.
I
wouldn't say
can
so.
vaguely remember that from my rewatch, and
Yeah.
I think I remember telling you at the time, it's an episode that constantly, whenever it gets to the big climax, I fall asleep. I don't know what it is. As soon as the tension ramps up,
He switches on his machine and...
God, yeah. There you go.
Then which finds 11th place? So obviously we've discussed that already. That should be higher. I mean,
I'd say for
probably
Alan
agree.
Cumming alone.
Agree with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 12th place, our old friend, Flux.
Literally the tent pole. Then it's literally bang in the middle.
Bang in the middle. Yeah.
Um,
Fair enough.
To be fair, that's how I would rank.
probably-
I would say Flux is a 5 out of 10 overall, just in terms of the quality of it.
Yeah,
In terms of like half and half.
I suppose it kind of balances out. I mean,
Actually, no. I think that's been a bit too harsh. I'd put it higher up.
I
than
think
that.
top half. I'm not.
And also hearing
too
how
surprised
the
to see
production
it
of
wasn't
it.
in the top 10. I mean, personally for me, if I was doing this and doing it in this way, maybe it would possibly crack top 10. To be honest, but I'm not in terms of general consensus. It kind of makes sense.
You know what?
About that.
If you are ranking it as an individual thing, yeah, totally, it would definitely be in my top 10 of that era.
If you're doing the episode individually,
Yeah. And also, I mean, I know that you can't really be relying on the context totally, but when you hear about how
kind
it
of
got
improves
made
your estimation
and all
of
that
that story.
like
Yeah.
they did so well
Yeah.
to make half a series of Doctor Who in that time.
And I still think personally that I think, as I said before, at the time broadcast and now looking back as well, like up to the end of Survivors of the Flux, 5 out of 6 episodes, thumbs up. Not so much for Vanquishers, I don't mind as much other people hate it, but certainly 5 out of 6 ain't bad.
Yeah.
So there we go. Takes you away.
Hate it.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't like it at all.
I think we're complete opposites in that.
Yeah. I know that you're a fan of
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I've tried.
That's really interesting.
No. it's
Revolution
not
of the Daleks.
I at the time I would have definitely I would have said like, oh, this is actually a really good one. This is probably one of my favourite episodes of the era.
Okay.
But now I'd probably say that's the right place for it. Sort of middling.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. If not, maybe a little bit too high. Maybe.
Really?
I don't
Okay,
know.
sure.
Maybe.
No,
maybe.
I agree. I certainly wouldn't put it higher.
I mean, that's because that's the lowest.
I'd put it
lowest of the
I
specials.
put Kablam above it, to be honest. I think Kablam's got like the real gimmick, which
It's such an interesting one, isn't it? I think we've discussed this again.
because you
like,
read the novel now as well. Haven't
read
you?
the novelisation, which in terms of if people wanting a different ending or wanting more from the ending, he goes into a bit more detail.
Okay.
I think he takes out, from memory, like the offending line of like the system's not the problem. He does edit it out slightly, cut it down slightly. He gives Judy, Judy Hesmond-Howe's character, a backstory. Like we see her as a kid, and her father's like a postman who gets redundancy, and
Right.
it kind of doesn't, and it doesn't. Like I but then I don't know. I'm not someone who's always had like a massive issue with the ending anyway, even though obviously it doesn't read well. I just think it's such a weird, funny story. Like obviously, like you say, there's the gimmick of the robots and stuff. Aesthetically, it's great, but it's not one that I kind of that stands out to me beyond that. Really, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, you put it higher.
I put it higher.
A little bit higher.
A
little bit higher.
Yeah. Not massively higher, but I'd probably put it higher than those stories.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
And we're now into kind of the top, the bottom 10, bottom 8. Series 12 finale, I've said in the past, that would be like right near the top for me.
Sure.
Would you put it higher than where it is there, or?
No.
Fair enough.
Definitely not.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ghost Monument, Praxius, Arachnids, Saranga, bottom 3, Legend of the Sea Devils, Battle of Ranskov Colossus, Orphan 55.
I'm
Thoughts?
kind of not pleased. I think that sounds a bit too malicious, but it's kind of good to see Legend of the Sea Devils in that bottom 3, so that we all know that even if you do have such a good-looking returning monster, that ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, because people could have just voted on that basis alone, couldn't they? Like, it's the Sea Devils.
Yeah.
But no.
We full on accepted that.
I mean, it's fair enough. I think even Chris himself, since that in that podcast, there are stories yet to come out about that one. So I think everybody's kind of agreed that it's not what it could have been.
He didn't sound too favourable towards it when in that podcast.
No.
Yeah, so not surprised.
I mean, Orphan 55. I have a feeling you might put that a little bit higher, maybe. Or
I wouldn't put it. It's not my least favourite
place.
Jodie. It's not the worst.
Again, not surprising in terms
same
of
with Sananga Conundrum as well. Sananga Conundrum, I think, is better than half of those stories that are above it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Personally.
I'm kind of. I don't know. It's sort of you can understand it. I think for me, Saranga a bit higher. Arachnids a bit higher, to be honest. I like a lot of the aesthetic of that one
personally.
Yeah. Anything that particular the Trump character or the spiders, or just generally.
And then also thinking about that ending of how the doctor was like, we need to give it a humane death of letting it slowly die.
It's a shame they couldn't have
very
done something about that.
Yeah, very and then very indicative of that kind of era, and that the companions are very much just, yes, Doctor. Okay, Doctor, of course. We'll very much agree with you and not put up any argument. Which is why I think Haunting of Villa Diodati is one that I quite like, because it's finally giving them a chance to have a voice of a different opinion.
Sure.
Because that's that's the push and pull. And I just almost banged that thing over.
Push and pull.
So there you go. That's Geordie.
I suppose what have they got on here? Just missing out on the top 3, we find Rosa, the highest placed entry from the first series. Yeah, fair enough.
Would you say that's about right in terms? Would Rosa be your top for that first series?
It's difficult because there are quite a few I like.
I think in retrospect, I remember when we did our Whisker overview, I was surprised that overall I preferred Series 11 to Series 12, when at the time I would have said Series 12 is much more.
I think certainly top 3 for me. I think when it fell to Earth will be up there, and probably It Takes You Away as well. Okay. And maybe those. Then Demons. I don't know. They'd all be up there. I don't think there's anything else too enlightening in that. So let's briefly move on to
the final
round, which now has closed as of the end of September. We don't know when they're going to be announcing the results. I mean, this could age really badly if in the next issue of Doctor Who magazine, which is about to come out, they might have like a teaser for the thing in the next issue. I think it'll either be that, or maybe they'll hold it off until after all the new episodes have come out, and maybe do it in like January.
I can't see them doing it in December. It's like it's either going to be the November special issue or the start of next year.
It's a bit like, I think around the 50th they had, like, if you remember in January sort of time, they had like a 50 years of the Daleks celebratory issue. Kind of spacing things out a bit, spreading out the celebrations and stuff. So maybe they'll pull a similar stunt now. I don't know.
Interesting.
But so we do have the list of stories, albeit in my jumbled up preference revealer order.
So how about we give our personal top 5, which I voted for, but you didn't get a chance to vote for.
I forgot to enter. I've got my, in theory, ranking.
And then we'll kind of give our predictions for what we think will be the top 10.
Because
that's apparently what they're going to do.
I think they're only going to reveal the top 10. So that's really what we're kind of thinking about.
What I kind of hope is that if they did it, if they say released the top 10 in November,
yes,
and then in maybe the January issue, they're like, and now we're going to give you the full results of everything.
It's probably more like that. Well, yeah, here are the top 10.
I would like that. But
10 years down the line, here are your full unreleased. On the online archive, here's all the stuff you wanted back then, finally released.
I guess they'll always have that data.
They'll always have it.
So they have the rankings for when they come back to it.
Yeah. So, from my preference to reveal it, which I did a video for, I'll link it. No surprise, number 1, World of Time Doctor Falls. Number 2, Heaven Sent. Number 3, Science in the Library, Forest of the Dead. Number 4, I did put Day of the Doctor. And number 5, the Series 1 finale. So that was out of the top 3 for each Doctor, as voted for by readers. So it's out of those 10 stories.
No classics then.
No classics.
No classics.
And do you know, I didn't actually feel bad about that, really.
That's fine. That's fine because, and also in this
there
instance,
are a lot of classic fans that will just have like 5 classics.
Yeah, and
so it balance it out, you know.
You gave me a funny look then, Richard. A lot of classic fans.
No.
It's also weird in this. Yeah. In this instance, it's kind of hard because you're faced with stories that you're like, well, they're not my personal ones that I would like to choose, if that makes sense. Like, there might be classic stories that you would have put higher, but you couldn't because they weren't in those top 3s.
And even for, definitely. Like, because for Tom, and what do we have? Like, Genesis, City of Death, and
was it Pyramids of Mars?
It might have been. There it is. Yeah. So for example,
there it is.
So even like for classic fans voting who love the Tom Baker era, they can't have the Assassin, Talon. Or maybe that's good that they can't have Talons. But like I don't know what Ark in Space or all those types of stories, you can't have them. Yeah. And I think similarly for the Tennant ones, they were just. What did you have? Human Nature, Family of Blood, Science of the Library, and
Midnight.
Blink,
no, Midnight wasn't in it.
So can't even have Midnight.
Exactly.
Waters of Mars.
Exactly. How bizarre is that?
There's lots of stories that you can't choose.
Yeah.
You have to work with what you got here, and that's what I got. I mean, bringing up my top 10, I had Human Nature, Family of Blood. There were a couple of classics in there, so Jess the Daleks. I did put the Power of the Doctor in there for kind of the reason. Well, I didn't. Because it was a preference for you, it kind of just emerged. But for the reasons I think I've already discussed, Vincent the Doctor, City of Death. That's the 10. For me, from
and then can I know what your bottom ones were? Your bottom 3?
Yeah. Okay. So,
are you fearing getting lynched? Here we go.
I mean, last place Daleks Master Plan, just because I haven't
experienced
it, so it's not a surprise. Is
I
it?
would have put it there a few years ago when I hadn't listened to it. Fair enough, totally.
Then out of those, Vengeance on Varos.
Okay.
And then The Empty Child 2 part. Yeah.
Sure. It's nice. I was trying to look. I thought I'd screenshotted because I did the preference revealer as well, and I thought I would have my
other stuff languishing down like the TV movie.
Haunting of Villa Diodati, very low.
Yeah.
Is that in the bottom? Or just
like,
out of the bottom 10.
All these,
Earthshock. All right. Okay. Right.
I mean, interesting stuff. I mean, I was sort of.
That's interesting.
Pretty happy with the way it came out with that. I mean, obviously, if I had voted out, I might have altered things slightly. But I think World Enough in Time, Doctor Falls, that stands. The Library 2 parts I haven't sent. These are stories I've got a lot of time for. So
because I did this preference revealer thing as well, and my top 5 came out different to how I voted because I think that when you vote, you're also voting in such a way. Like, for example, I went, well, I'm not gonna give a Doctor 2 episodes in that top 5 because 5 is such a small amount, and I was like, I feel I think maybe that's slightly a weird way of doing things, but
vote first or did the preference revealer first?
I did the vote first. Yeah. So my preference revealer said Vincent and the Doctor, number 1.
Interesting.
City of Death, number 2.
Yeah.
Bad Wolf Parting the Ways, number 3. The Green Death, number 4. And Empty Child, the Doctor Answers, number 5.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that makes sense for you, I think.
It did actually.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Obviously, in that, Eccleston has technically 4 episodes in that top 5.
Yes, of course.
So
Yeah.
I actually voted, if I remember rightly, it's just an order of Doctor, Green Death, City of Death, a lot of death in there, Caves of Androzon, no, 5 Doctors, Bad Wolf Parting the Ways, and Vincent and the Doctor. Those are my 5.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If that was my actual top 5, it would be different. Like, I think you would probably have a different top 5 to what you have there.
Yeah, if there are other stories that
you
I was
could have
able
picked,
to put in there, absolutely.
But I felt happy with my 5 that I chose. I think that I had a split between new series and classic series. They were stories that I do like.
Yeah.
So I felt happy.
I mean, I suppose that's the thing. Like, broadly speaking, okay, there's stuff that we might have liked to get through to this round that isn't there. But even so, what we have got, broadly speaking, is a very strong set of episodes here to choose from. Very hard to just choose 5. And in terms of what ends up being the final 10, 5, whatever, we know it's going to be 10 strong stories. But what I suppose being realistic, what do we think it's going to be? How do we think it's going to go? Because obviously, I suppose, as we've said, the Capaldi and Whiskers stuff wasn't included last time. So this time, we do have stuff like World of Time, Heaven Sent, kind of coming into the game here. I mean, what else was there from the third one? Was it Mummy? Mummy with the Orient Express.
Yep.
I don't see that cracking top 10.
No.
And then like the Jodie ones, The Best in the World, probably not. Although
Power of the Doctor was very popular in fan
Power of the Doctor. And again, if it happened, personally, I wouldn't be like against seeing that because it would be a nice kind of record and time capture at this moment.
I don't think it'll be number 1, as with The Best Will in the World.
No. Maybe top 10, but at the same time, I could kind of see it not getting there. Because there's so much competition.
I'm willing to put money on the fact that I think Power of the Doctor will be in that top 10.
Do you think?
You're going to clip this in, aren't you? When you see this? I think you've almost got to look at it in terms of the real contenders are going to be the first places for each Doctor, realistically, would you say? Because that's told us that fan consensus-wise.
True.
The only Doctor I think who's got a chance of being in the top 10 twice would probably be Tom Baker, because you've got Genesis and City of Death, which are 2 very strong ones.
Yes.
And very popular in the fan consensus.
It's true, isn't it? I mean, so who do we think isn't? I mean, Colin Baker probably is not going to be there, is he?
Yeah, because, Vengeance, 2 Doctors and Revelation, you've not really got...
No. As much as I love Revelation, I can't see that. I mean,
I don't
top
think...
20, mate. Well, they're not going to release it, are they? But so he's probably not going to be there. Jodie might not, if Power of the Doctor...
I think I'd put her in
if it wasn't for that, but
I think Hartnell won't get in it.
Master Plan, Dark Invasion of Earth and Time.
Because being honest, Dalek Invasion of Earth, that was number 1, right? And I don't see that being like pushing itself above any other episodes in that top 10.
If
the original Daleks serial was in that top 3, I think I would have maybe pinned that as
for
being.
Troughton, we have 2 is Tomb there? Yeah,
Tomb
War Games, and what was the other one? Power of the Daleks.
Power of the Daleks, right. Do you know what? I watched the War Games, spaced out over a few days.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish it. I don't know... I don't know why
it's
very
different ways.
I don't know why it's number 1. But the War Games... Again, I can't see that having a crack at the top 10.
I don't think so. I think not. 2 maybe. I mean, it's possible maybe that Troughton could miss out as well.
I think he might miss out,
possibly. Yeah.
Tomb possibly, but given that the War Games was number 1, I don't think it will.
No. Then for Perch we've got Inferno,
Spearhead, which I don't agree with,
and Green Death.
Yeah, I think Inferno will get in the top 10.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of fan.
Yeah.
I think I love Inferno. Actually, I watched that again recently.
Yeah, I do need to give it another crack.
I gave the whole of season 7 another crack actually. Because I've always said I'm not a fan of Spearhead, and I was like, I need to give it another chance, and I watched it, and I was like, I'm not a fan. So
Yeah.
But I think Inferno definitely will get in that top 10 because Pertwee, there's no way that he won't be in that top 10. And as much as I like the Green Death, I don't think that's
Tom, as we've said, he'll be there.
Yeah.
Davison.
Caves will be in there, 100%.
Yeah.
Again, when I put money on that because it's just so.
That's the one that. Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
5 Doctors might have a chance.
As well.
No, actually no. If we're pushing,
I did find a lot of love for it actually when I watched it at the BFI recently, probably more so than I've ever had in the past actually.
God, I love the 5 Doctors.
Yeah, it's a great celebration.
That's why I gave it a vote over Caves, just because I thought, well, give it a bit of love. You know?
Yeah, it's got a lot going for it in that sense. Yeah, but yeah, probably not top 10.
Possibly no Colin.
No Colin.
Sylv.
Remembrance.
Yeah, that's probably going to be up there, isn't it? Realistically.
And this is going to be interesting because in terms of Dalek stories that have made, so we're going to see Genesis there, probably Remembrance as well.
Power, I don't think so. Dalek Invasion Earth, Dalek Master Plan, no.
Then Eccleston, the finale.
I think Bad Wolf Part in the Ways
stands good chance.
But then Empty Child, did that get number 1?
Possibly. Yeah, people love that, don't they?
Yeah. And I did, but I voted for Bad Wolf Part in the Ways because actually, I think I'd rank that higher than Empty Child now.
But those are the only 3 I think really in terms of Dalek stories here that stand a chance. Well, yeah,
Revelation as well, but that
yeah. So maybe that's like a third of your 10. So maybe it's going to be them.
What, Remembrance, Bad Wolf, and Genesis?
Yeah.
Remembrance, Bad Wolf, Genesis. TV movie's not going to get.
He's not going to be that. No.
Then
Tennant's going to get
Human Nature.
That's what he's got. Yeah, Human Nature, The Library, and Blink.
Did Blink get number 1?
I think it did. Yeah. Again,
Blink's going to be up there. Then people people seem to love that story.
Yeah. I suppose it'll be interesting to see as well the way they're doing this. Are people gonna maybe if they've got like a few Moffat episodes to pick from? You know what I mean? Like, are we going to see Empty Child and Blink, or maybe this time? Oh, that's just one example from the air. But like, are people going to be thinking, oh, I want to include 1 or 2 Moffats in this in my 5?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'll affect things. Mm-hmm. I think those 3 Dalek stories are pretty strong bets. I would probably put more money on Genesis and Remembrance. I do, as much as I like the finale.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so Blink, Caves. So we've discussed the 11th Doctor.
Day of the Doctor's going to be in there. Day of the Doctor's going to be in there. As much as I put Vincent in there in a heartbeat, but...
that'd be pretty amazing to see Vincent get that.
I don't think it won't be. 100% it won't. It's such a shame, because I think that in terms of story for his era, Vincent is all the way, but Day of the Doctor is that celebratory thing.
Note some of these down.
Are you going to write in our list? What we'll do a rank. We'll quickly rank it as well.
Genesis, Remembrance is going to be there.
Yeah. Day of the Doctor. Those are dead certs.
Yeah. And
what else did we say?
So
Inferno, but I'd put that at the lower end.
Yeah. Caves,
yeah.
Probably
Blink, yep. Empty Child. Ooh, Empty Child will, yeah.
So that's up to 7 already.
Gosh, Power of the Doctor. Are we going to say that?
We can do. I haven't put anything in Eccleston yet either.
Have you got Empty Child in there?
Oh, of course I have. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's 8.
Is Capaldi going to get in there?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
World Enough in Time?
Not both. One of those. Either that or Heaven Sent, probably.
Yeah, do you think... It's weird, actually, because I'd almost think that maybe when people are faced with, I've only got 5 slots to fill, would they go...
Yeah, actually, it's possible. And especially because people go for stuff like Blink so much, it's probably possible, actually, that maybe in the final one, maybe Heaven Sent will get higher.
You know what? Let's put Heaven Sent down in there, because I reckon
the stuff
people
we've got
do
here
love
is
it,
like those kind of chamber pieces almost.
Yeah.
That's a 9.
Oh gosh! And then what else were we saying? Possibly Bad Wolf, but is it a push to ask for Eccleston to get twice in there? City of Death, we've not said. Do you think that could have a chance?
If we put that in, that's a 10, and that's the 2 Toms.
I'm just trying to rattle through all the rest of my head. Do I think 5 Doctors will get in there? I don't think so.
No.
Green Death, no.
Just looking through all these.
No more of the Jodie ones.
Yeah.
Human Nature, would that have a chance?
It could do, because it had one of those magazine covers back when they did the 2009 one, didn't
Yeah.
it? I'll note it down. I think I'm also going to put, for a Trout and just, like 2 maybe. Maybe not, probably not top 10, but sort of, well, I'm not going to tell us the rest of it.
I'm thinking back to the 2014 one. I don't think there was any 60s stories in the top 10.
Well, they're not, wow.
I don't think there was. I think War Games was the highest 60s rate, 60 story, and I think it was in the top 20 only just.
I mean, so in terms of what we've got here for this 10, I mean, how's it split? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4... We've got 5 of each, I think, haven't we? Genesis, Remembrance, Caves, Inferno, City, then Day of the Doctor, Blink, Empty Child, Power of the Doctor, Heaven Sent. That's... Sounds about right, isn't it?
Yeah,
in terms of 5 of each.
And then the order-wise, it's going to be Blink, Day of the Doctor, or I don't think we can put Power at the top because I don't think it's that. No, I
wouldn't say so. No. Although, well, then again,
Caves or Genesis.
If it happened, I wouldn't kick up so much of a fuss. But I don't think it will happen.
I'm not going to put. I don't think we could put Genesis at the top because it didn't get to the top of the Tom Baker poll, did it?
Before, hasn't it? And it's not. Yeah.
So I would probably say.
Do you think it's going to be?
Should we say Blink
or?
I think we should say Blink. To be honest.
So last time it was Day of the Doctor. Then the time before it was Caves, was it?
Yeah. Caves, really Blink, Day of the Doctor, isn't it? Yeah.
I imagine if Peter Davison ends up getting it again, that'd be
shocking.
Yeah, that'd be kind of.
Yeah, weird. But Caves is people love Caves, and it's renowned for being so good. I think though it's going to be Day of the Doctor or Blink, isn't it? As much as I disagree personally, but I think it's going to be one of those two.
Which will we sooner see? Out of those two,
what personally, or just mean which do we think?
Either way,
I would say.
I mean, actually, to be honest, Day of the Doctor might stand a chance.
I think Day of the Doctor. Again. Yeah, I think so.
Should we put... Well...
I'm going to laugh so much, but I think it will be.
So if we put that and then...
And then Blink.
And then Blink.
Yeah. Caves.
Then Caves.
Then not Genesis. I would say Empty Child, maybe.
Oh, okay. And maybe Genesis after that? Or have we got the competition?
Or City of Death, because City of Death did beat Genesis.
Right, we'll do that then. That's
City of Death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then would we go maybe
maybe
like Genesis, Power of the Doctor? No, I don't know, is that a bit high?
For Power.
Yeah.
I'll put Genesis there. I mean, what have we got left? So we've got 4.
Remembrance, Inferno, Power of the Doctor, and Heaven Sent.
Oh, Heaven Sent.
I think Heaven Sent could be 6 maybe instead of Genesis.
It could crack 5 maybe, but then not. Then again, if you've got Day of the Doctor and Blink already there, an Empty Child, because there are going to be a lot of classic fans who really, really love the classic and have grown up with it, and rightly so. To be fair to them, you know, the old generations will be doing their bits to get the classic stuff higher. So maybe in the face of that, it's a bit optimistic to think. Yeah, should we put...
I put it 6.
6.
Genesis 7.
Then...
Remembrance.
And then
Inferno, Power.
And then, have Power just got
just
there. Yeah.
This is our prediction.
This is our 10 predictions. So, Day of the Doctor, Blink, Caves, Empty Child, City of Death, Heaven Sent, Genesis, Remembrance, Inferno, Power of the Doctor. It seems about right, but then, I mean, you just never know with these things.
You do never know, yeah. But I'm going by
the past.
The past, and I think if anything, if this poll has taught us anything, is that Doctor Who fans never change. Because there's been very little movement in terms of the older stuff.
So in terms of your top 3.
And in terms of that top 10, all we're really adding is Power of the Doctor and... Heaven Sent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. One for Power, one for Where to Go.
The one I'm having second thoughts about is Inferno, but I do think that a Pertwee story has to be in there, but maybe Maybe I'm going a bit mad. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see something like Green Death, but
It won't. No,
not in the top 10.
No.
Yeah, you think it has to be Inferno? Stand a chance.
If there's any Pertwee, it will be Inferno.
Pertwee, yeah.
But I'm just trying to think back to the 2014 poll whether Pertwee did actually even get a story in the top 10. Do you want to have a check?
Well, let's just fact check
before we commit this.
Yeah.
Before we go all in.
Get it out of the shelf.
Yeah.
So.
Have Review of Death just done a video on their predictions as well? I'm assuming
I haven't watched the full episode. I think it was like the Yogscast one they did, the extra one. I've only part away from it.
It'd be interesting to see what everyone else has predicted for their things. There you go, link number 1.
That wasn't the overall.
But for the 70s one, I think Inferno was the top.
Overall,
but it was...
These are all the decades one. Oh, so Genesis beat Caves last time. So we've got the top 2 the same of Day and Blink. So maybe Genesis might crack top 5. It's interesting that sort of obviously Talons is there as well. That doesn't. It's not going to happen this time.
That can't happen.
It's not there. It can't happen.
Pyramids is in 8 as well. God, Tom was in the
3
top
times.
10 4 times. Pyramids, Talons, City of Death, Genesis.
Crikey. Yeah.
People do love Tom.
So Remembrance of the Daleks was number 10.
So there, it's got a solid chance of getting in there. Human Nature.
So Inferno was 18.
Yeah. So maybe, you know what? As much as I love John so much, but I don't think he's going to get in it then.
Human Nature over that, perhaps,
yeah,
do you think?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. And I'm always having thoughts about Pyramids being in there because people love Tom so much.
Yeah.
Again, as much as Pyramids is fine.
Empty Child was 7, but it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. We've put it a bit higher than that. And obviously, the new ones, we don't know.
And the War Games, again, War Games was the top 60s one, but that was only in 12.
Yes.
Robots of Death beat that.
And in terms of, so last time, just to finish off, in terms of, we've got this thing here that says which ones were new at the time of the poll. So obviously the winner day, the Doctor. Then after that, the only other new one was 11th Hour in 17th place, and then you have to go lower and lower. So, I don't know how... We've put two more, Heaven Sense and Paradox, haven't we? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a bit optimistic. I think definitely one... I think if I had to settle on one new one to be up there, probably Heaven Sense.
Okay.
It would be nice to see the Series 10 for now. Probably one of those two, I think. Not both.
I think Capaldi will have at least one in there.
Yes, I think that's a safe bet.
And I do honestly think that Power of the Doctor will get in there because people recency, also fan pleasing.
I mean, I've put my cards on the table with that. I think as a time capsure thing, it would be really nice to see. I almost hope it does happen. I don't know. Realistically,
do you think that should?
When you've got not so much that, but just in terms of how it'll actually go, Is there enough support there from the older fans in particular, or people that didn't like the era or anything?
Yeah,
it's got a lot to overcome, I think, almost to get there, but it could happen. It could do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They, by this point, the data, it's all there because the polls are closed. They know. Thomas Spilsbury knows.
Tom Spilsbury's writing his article
as we speak,
and he'll be there saying, and as we all know, Twice Upon a Time.
And Time
is fantastic. He'll find a way of getting Time of the Auction, Twice Upon a Time in there.
Yeah, number 1.
An extremely great effort for them to get into the top 10 when they weren't even voted into the top 10.
So there we go. That is. It's sort of the end, but not quite. We'll come back to.
We'll be on our final
review the actual results whenever they may be. Be it this year, next year, whatever. Over the next few months.
I am excited because it is such an. As much as I wish that they just had a big old poll, it is an exciting thing to see how people vote for this new way of doing things. Because as we've seen in that, Tom got more than 3 in the top 10.
Yes.
So obviously people are having to pick and choose. In a different way. So it's going to be
crazy, and it's been great fun doing this as well. I think it's definitely got more exciting as we've gone along. I remember going back to our 60s one, and it's a bit more of a kind of vague sort of thing, I think. But now we've got into the really meaty stuff. We're really invested in this. And it'll be great to see the final sort of coming together of everything when the poll results get released.
Definitely.
Let us know your choices for the top 10 and also what you voted for, if you can remember, for the top 5 as well. It'll be interesting to get a sense of what people are thinking, what the consensus is, whether our list is realistic or not, and all these things, vice versa.
Yeah.
But otherwise, until then, stay tuned for other stuff. Until then, but we'll see you at some point, whenever it may be, for the final video. Until then. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Lovely stuff.